What is survival karma running in Ninja Gaiden 2? Well, you fight in an arena where the game throws waves of enemies with different strengths and weaknesses at you in different combinations. They increase in difficulty as you progress, and if you're able to survive long enough, you finally meet the boss, Fiend Genshin. If you defeat him, you have completed the first round. The waves are not random, and the enemy combinations always remain the same throughout all rounds. There are two formats, Format A and Format B, with different waves of different enemy combinations, and which format you get depends on what weapon you pick. The health and damage of the enemies in the first round are equivalent to that of the enemies on Acolyte difficulty, the easiest difficulty in the game. The second wave represents normal difficulty called Warrior, the third represents the hard difficulty, and the fourth represents Master Ninja, the hardest difficulty. All subsequent rounds will be on Master Ninja difficulty. And when does it end? It ends when you die. And trust me, you will. You will die a lot. You will die much earlier than you think. You will die in ways that feel cheaper and meaner than anything you've probably experienced in a game. It will fuel you to try to conquer that wave, to try to find a way to beat it. And when you die, something appears. A mysterious karma score. This score is the reason people play this game mode for hundreds of hours and why there is still competition in Ninja Gaiden 2 besides speedrunning. The survival karma scoring system is not known or understood by many, and those of us who do know it are current or former competitors. Learning about this system on your own would require you to search old forums and Discord posts, solve out misinformation, and test things on your own. Thankfully, I know this system very well, and I made this project to centralize the information in a format for the modern age, an internet video. First, let's go through some things about the combat system, both basic and advanced. But keep in mind, I won't cover every single minute little detail. I don't want this video to be 5 hours long. Here is a list of all the enemies that appear in survival and what they're called. There are 5 categories of enemies. Fiends, humans, mechs, bugs, and of course, bosses. Ninja Gaiden 2 has an attack type called Nimpo. This is a very powerful super move that you perform by pressing Y plus B. There are several different types of Nimpo with different applications. This technique can be used a lot in story mode, but in survival it is a very finite resource that must be used very sparingly and strategically. Ryu, the main character that you always play as, can do something called armoring. This is a mechanic where Ryu, during parts of some of his attacks, can take the hit of an enemy attack without getting any knockback or stun, but he will still take the damage. Examples of moves with the armoring property is 360Y with the scythe and hold 360Y with the dragon sword. There are also moves that have armor against only bullets and regular shurikens, such as forward X with flails or 360Y with the Kusarigama. Ninja Gaiden 2 has 3 ways of killing the enemies. The first is the traditional that exists in almost all action games, do enough damage to take down their health. Most enemies, however, for example ninjas, vangelfs and zombies, can also be killed via the delim and obliteration technique or OT system and the insta-kill or IK system. The way the delimbing works is that moves that you do have a random chance to delim an enemy, and after you have, you can perform the obliteration technique or OT and execute them. What limb the move cuts off and how high or low the chances of getting a delim is unique for every move. For example, forward Y with the Falcon's Talons has an extremely high delim rate and will always cut off the legs if it delims. But forward Y with the Dragon Sword has no delim property. Forward X with the Dragon Sword can delim, and it's good for doing that, but the delim rate is much lower than forward Y with the Talons, and it won't do it as often. The insta-kill system simply means that a single attack will kill the enemy in one single hit, given that the right conditions are fulfilled or that it is the right move that can do that. Here are the different ways in which you can insta-kill enemies. Ninjas, if they get knocked down or are airborne and get hit by Flying Swallow from the sword weapons, forward Y while airborne, will always get cut in half and get IK'd. Human enemies always get IK'd by Windblade's Nimpo. Flying Vangelves, when hit by Windblade's Nimpo, will always get cut in half and get IK'd. Some moves simply have a random chance to decapitate and thereby IK the illimitable enemies. Examples of moves that can do this are running Y with the Kusarigama or flying Swallow with the swords or the Tafa. Some moves, like for example the ending hitbox of the level 2 ultimate technique with the True Dragon Sword or Blade of the Archfiend, has an hitbox that will always IK. In fact, all level 2 ultimate techniques have some form of IK hitbox. Confusingly, there are two insta-kill systems in the game, one that relates to score and one that relates to the mechanic that I just described. I will henceforth call what I just described as mechanical IK and refer to the other system as karma IK. What is this ultimate technique that I just mentioned? Guaranteed IK hitboxes sound pretty good. It is a very powerful attack that is usually a massive flurry of hits, performed by holding Y, charging it, and releasing it. It takes about 1 second to charge it to level 1 and 2 seconds to charge it to level 2. The initial charge starts a little bit faster if you do it when Ryu lands from a jump, called on landing or OL. We normally call the level 1 ultimate technique an ET and the level 2 ultimate technique a UT. The UT is more powerful than the ET. You can charge your ultimate techniques faster by using something called essence. If there is one yellow essence out and you hold Y, you will absorb it and charge up to a level 1 ultimate technique, the ET, almost immediately. If you absorb 2 or more yellow essences this way, it will go to the level 2 ultimate technique, the UT, just as fast. A single red, blue, or green essence will take the charge to level 2 ultimate technique, the UT. What is essence then, and what do the different colors mean? Whenever an enemy dies, they drop something called essence. After they drop the essence, it takes about 1.2 seconds before you can pick it up or absorb it into a UT. To absorb it, to charge a UT faster, you simply hold Y. To pick it up, you simply stand next to it. However, Ryu will not pick up the essence if you are attacking or holding block. You can thereby control what essence you pick up and what essence you don't. You can choose to keep essence around to absorb it into a UT later. In survival, there is yellow, red, blue, and green essence, and picking them up all do different things. Picking up blue essence replenishes your health, and red essence replenishes your Nimpo. In story mode, yellow represents money, but in survival, picking it up does nothing. Yellow essence only represents an opportunity to charge UTs faster. Green essence will give you something called Karma Burst. Karma Burst give you a score multiplier that is displayed on screen. It will simply take whatever you did that you got karma points for and multiply it by the amount displayed on the screen. I will go through the various things that give you karma score in a moment. The karma burst doesn't last forever. When you pick up one green essence, it adds 1x to your karma burst and 30 seconds to your timer. The multiplier maxes out at 5x and the timer maxes out at 2 minutes. So if you pick up 4 green essences at the same time, you will have maxed out both the multiplier and the timer. So you will have to keep picking up green essences to add 30 seconds to your timer if you never want it to run out. It should go without saying that keeping your karma burst at 5x as much as you possibly can is crucial for a good score. It will, however, not always be possible to do this if you want to play safe, and trust me, you will be forced to play safe, and you will have to let go of karma burst and therefore karma points for the sake of survival. What do I mean by this? How is it less safe to play in a way that makes green essence drop? There are different conditions that determine what type of essence can get dropped and influences the likelihood of certain types of essences dropping. The first and most important thing to know is that you can only get yellow essence if you kill with an OT or an ET/UT. Killing with OTs, ETs, and UTs is generally the safest way to fight. Red essence is by far the most rare and random. You can never really count on them happening or manipulate the game very much to make them more likely. Make sure to thank whatever deity you worship whenever they drop. With blue essence, how much health Ryu has scales very heavily with how likely the enemies are to drop blue essence. When you're at low health, the enemies are much more likely to drop blue essence, and at high health, the chances are slim. How big the blue essence is, and therefore how much it heals you, depends on what enemy you kill. Generally, stronger enemies give you more health, and weaker enemies give you less. Enemies that stick out for giving you significantly more health than usual are the Resetsus, the quadpetal mechs, and the lycanthropes. Different enemies have different drop rates. This applies to blue, red, and green essence when you kill with a combo below 20. Here is a list of how good the drop rates are for the different enemies. Good simply means that they are more likely to drop blue, red, or green essence, and less likely to drop yellow. These rankings are not ordered. Take note that we do not know the exact numbers for the likelihood for drop rates. This list is based on experience. If you kill an enemy with a combo higher than 20 hits, the enemies can no longer drop blue or red essence. They can only drop yellow or green essence. The likelihood of them dropping green essence spikes dramatically to almost 50%. This is by far the best way to make it as likely as possible for any enemy, of dropping green essence. This is what I meant about safety, because it is generally harder and less safe to kill with a long combo. So how does the combo system in Ninja Gaiden 2 work? Consecutive hits on enemies in quick enough succession will count as combo. It can be any enemy, so you can freely distribute your hits between the different enemies to build your combo. Essentially, when you hit an enemy with a move, a timer starts, and you have to hit someone with a new attack before the timer ends to continue the combo. How long of time you have to get a new attack in for it to count as combo depends on your preceding move. For example, you have a very long window to continue the combo after a UT, but after a shuriken the window is short. If Ryu gets hit or blocks an attack at any point, the combo ends completely and resets to 0. There is one exception. If Ryu armors bullets or regular shurikens, his combo does not end. Getting a combo to 20 hits is easier said than done because of the aggressive nature of the enemies and all the projectiles they throw and shoot. I will give you a little bit of advice to help you get started. Focus on combos in the air because you cannot get hit by regular shurikens or bullets while airborne. You also can't get flanked by most enemy moves because they won't reach you. Remember to end your aerial combos by throwing shurikens often. These add 3 extra hits to your combo. Try to find and use multi-hit moves and moves that armor shurikens and bullets. Now let's get into what actually gives you points. The game actually tells you what gives you points and how many points you got if you turn on Karma Display in the menu. Always have it on. First of all, there's kill score. When you kill an enemy, they simply give you points. It takes these scores for these enemies and multiplies it with your Karma Burst multiplier. This means that in some waves it is extra important to have your Karma Burst at 5x because of the kill score. Note Grey Resetsu and Fiend Genshin. The majority of your points, however, will not be gained through kill score but through doing the following things. You get these amounts of points for these actions multiplied by your Karma Burst. Let's go through how it all works. First of all, you get points simply for landing ETs and UTs on all enemies except bosses. You get points for performing obliteration techniques, OTs. Killing spree. After you kill an enemy, a timer of about 5 seconds starts. You have to kill the next enemy within this time frame to get the killing spree. This does not apply to bugs, you can never get killing spree points from them. Karma instant kill. After you hit an enemy with an attack, a timer of about 2.5 seconds start. You have to kill this enemy before the timer ends without hitting any other enemies in between to get the Karma IK points. But there are more conditions to Karma IK. First of all, Izuna Drop, the famous combo where Ryu slams the enemy into ground available to most weapons, will never grant you Karma IK points. Except, of course, there's one exception to this rule, to ensure that it is confusing for you all. Jumping into an enemy with specifically the Lunar Staff and doing the XXY Izuna Drop will give you the Karma IK, but no other combo route into Izuna Drop will. When it comes to Fiends, you will not get Karma IK points from doing a de-limbing move into an OT. With Fiends, you have to either kill them with mechanical IK or take their life bar down quickly enough to kill them within the 2.5 second timer. Mechs are a bit janky and not fully understood. It seems as though some strings will give you Karma IK and others simply won't. You also, of course, have to kill within the time frame and without distributing your hits, just like all other enemies. Thankfully, we know of attacks that can Karma IK mechs for all weapons that face mechs. They only appear in Format B. Here are those combos. XX forward Y with the Tonfa, XXY with the Lunar Staff, consecutive forward Ys with the Falcon's Talons, consecutive forward Ys with the Vigorian Flails. I should mention that combo technically gives you score, but it is so little that it is basically negligible. It simply takes your combo, multiplies it by 10, and gives you that as a score. It then applies the Karma Burst multiplier. This means that you would have to get a 300 hit combo to get the same amount of points that you would get for a single OT. It also never increases from this 10x multiplier, meaning that two 25 hit or 25 2 hit combos are worth as much as a single 50 hit combo. Trying to get a high combo count for any other purpose than getting green essence is a waste of time. Now that you've been given all of this information about how this scoring system works, how should you play it to do well? What should your game plan be? The basic flowchart for getting a good score is the following. Get your Karma Burst to 5x, do as many UTs as possible, as fast as possible, and keep enough green essence to keep your Karma Burst chain going. Other than UTs performed with the main weapon, Ryu can actually do UTs with all of his projectiles except the regular shurikens through holding B. The windmill shuriken UT is very important because it is generally, but not always, better for points. This is because it very reliably gets you Karma IK points and KS points. Regular UTs are better for safety because it grants you huge amounts of iframes. To do all of this, you need to chain your UTs, meaning that you use the essence that the enemies that you killed with your preceding UT will be used to perform the next UT. To UT really efficiently and really fast, you need to make sure that you don't pick up essence unnecessarily, and you have to utilize essence staggers. Essence staggers means that you absorb the essence that is out for a UT while other essence from an enemy that you just killed is still spawning in but is not yet absorbable. All of this requires great essence control, and that comes with some execution and advanced techniques. Remember that attacking and holding block stops Ryu from picking up essence. You can go from block to attack without picking up essence by simply letting go of block and go into an attack with the right timing. You can also attack while holding block by doing dodge jump into air attacks. You can also do attacks on Ryu's landing frames, or OL, while holding block and thereby not picking up any essence. I mentioned on landing /OL before and how it can be used to charge UTs faster. These are the attacks other than UT that you can do on landing while holding block. On landing X, if the weapon you have equipped has it. The timing for this is before you land, like on landing UT. Forward X and forward Y. To do this, tap forward X or forward Y and time it just as you land. Running Y. Time it right before you land and keep holding the control stick forward during the jump until you have gotten the move out. You can also do on landing jumps. This is really important because doing dodge jump into oval jumps is the fastest way to move while holding block. To do this, you jump in a given direction, hold the control stick in the direction you jumped and reset the stick to neutral, then tap it forward again and tap A. You have to do this entire input before Ryu lands. Finding the timing is tricky at first, but once you have it down, it's not too bad. If you're not getting it, you're probably not doing it early enough in Ryu's jump. These tips that I have given you to control essence will really help you to fight efficiently and get really good scores. But other than efficient UT chaining and playing for green and blue essence, you of course have to not get hit too much. You face very powerful enemies and some of them have attacks that do as much as 70% of your entire life bar. Now, I won't spell out specific strategies for every wave with every weapon, but I will give you some general advice and some tips on how to understand the enemy AI better so that you can avoid getting killed by them all the time. First of all, enemies in Ninja Gaiden 2 generally take turns between each other when they attack. The enemies take turns so fast that you can barely tell that they do this when you first start learning the game. The turn taking is a loose rule that they will sometimes break, especially when you get close to them. Enemies input read what you do and punish you for doing things, especially with grab, so pay attention to where you're doing your attacks and if anyone is close enough to punish you with a grab. But don't forget that risking getting hit by a grab or a minor swipe is sometimes worth it if the reward is high enough, even on the Master Ninja round. Almost all of the waves in survival are very complex, and they will all feel egregiously cheap before you figure them out. You can't just go into them guns a-blazing, although you will, as always, have to go fast. You need a game plan. For many of them, you really need more than just one game plan. You often need a plan A, B, and C, depending on if you're playing for blue essence, green essence, or just points, assuming that you have plenty of karma burst. And of course, you need to balance how safely you need and want to play at that moment. Sometimes it's going to be worth it to play in a way that grants you very little score, such as relying on grabs, just for safety and survival. For more concrete strategies on, for example, how to deal with certain waves, I recommend watching videos. I have playlists of my runs with all my PBs, and I have the world record with 4 out of the 8 weapons. Other high-level players I recommend watching are Wild1, D_not, Evil House of Ryuji, JTB123, and Iconoclast. Check both their YouTubes and Twitch highlights. What makes survival karma running so special and infinitely replayable is how it rewards adaptability. It does so in a way that I have never experienced in a PvE game, and I really don't think it exists in this way in any other game. The closest gaming experience I have to this is playing fighting games PvP competitively. In so many ways, I really think that Ninja Gaiden 2 is the ultimate single-player fighting game. Because of all the randomness with the D-limbs, the enemy patterns, and the essence drops, your reactions will have to be on point for the duration of the run, and most importantly, you will constantly have to adapt your route. What I mean by route is when, where, and how to play for what type of essence, how much to play for score, how safe to play, and how safe to play in what waves. And even things like in what order you should kill the different enemy types in a wave, which will sometimes depend on the patterns they give you other than your karma burst situations and your health. In survival karma runs, you can't just memorize the best route, stick to it, and grind it out until the RNG lines up, which is largely what I do when I do mission mode karma runs in Ninja Gaiden Black, for example. The randomness in Ninja Gaiden 2 works more like the randomness in roguelikes. It is something that you adapt to, not something that kills a run. However, in a roguelike, even an action roguelike, you can stop up and think about your decision in a way that NG2 Survival will never let you do. The actual decision making in regards to the route usually happens separately from the action in a roguelike. Not in Ninja Gaiden 2 Survival Karma, where it all happens so fast that you often have to rely on instinct rather than conscious thought to make your decisions. This is a game that completely and utterly overwhelms you with so many complex decisions that you have to make in such a rapid succession that you cannot possibly always make the right call. This game eventually defeats you by wearing you out. And at the end of the day, every run ends with you dying, the game always wins, and you will never be satisfied. If you haven't played Ninja Gaiden 2 and this video has piqued your interest and you want to give this a try, what should you do? Ninja Gaiden 2, and most of all the survival mode, is very difficult, and it's very hard to learn how to play Ninja Gaiden 2. The game is just very fast and complicated, it doesn't tell you much about what to do, and the solutions to the problems the game throws at you are often quite obtuse. You have to let the learning process take its time and definitely do it in the right order. I recommend playing story mode first, start at warrior difficulty and work your way up from there. Then complete the mission mode, maybe skip a few of them, but definitely do mission 9, 10, 13 and 14. Those missions will make you a much better player, especially mission 13 and 14. Then sink your teeth into survival. For most people, I think that just learning how to survive and getting comfortable with the different waves and just the combat is best, and focus on the karma score later. Survival only exists in the original Ninja Gaiden 2, not any of the remakes. It's available on Xbox 360 and any Xbox released after it through the official backwards compatibility, and you can buy it via the online shop. Xbox 360 and Xbox One S has some really serious frame rate problems, but on Xbox One X, Series S, and Series X, the game runs great. There is emulation, but as of the recording of this video, it still has problems with the sound cutting out. I want to thank you all for watching this video, and thank you to my regular viewers and small number of fans who watch me on Twitch. The nice comments, likes, and encouragement I get really do mean something to me. I want to make a special shout out to Evil House of Ryuji. He is the one that convinced me to get into survival karma running, and he is of course a highly skilled survival karma runner, and he also does score runs in many other games. If you have any further questions about this game mode, you're welcome to ask them anytime in my stream on Twitch. I stream regularly. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and give a like.